Welcome back to Crossroads. We know it's time for a lot of you to be heading out on vacation and thinking about taking photos. Jared Nelson is here from the Division of Art at Indiana Wesleyan University and also professional photographer for many, many years. And Jared, we know you deal with professional cameras, you deal with the really, really nice stuff, but most of the folks out there, they're using the camera that's with them. So we want to focus this a little bit on tips because these have become very powerful devices, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the jump that we've had in the last several years have found most people struggling to figure out how to be a photographer as well as everything else.
Well, yeah, well, we're all taking pictures. I'm not sure we're taking them well, so that's why you're here. So no matter what you got about gear, we got a couple of tips here, and then we talk about a few things related to the smartphone. You say don't fret about your gear. What do you mean about that?
Well, a lot of photographers that are professionals in the field say the best camera is the one that you have with you, which we find ourselves having our phones with us all of the time, and really we can make incredible images with this. So if you worry about getting the next lens or the next camera body, you're always going to be behind the 8-ball.
Okay, now starts with that with look with your eyes. What does that mean?
It's to see the image that you want to take first. A lot of times we have this camera in front of us that's blocking us. Really see the image that you want to take and then use your camera to take that image.
Okay, now you talk about keep editing simple. I notice a lot of people don't realize you've got editing tools, very simple ones, but effective ones, right on the software that's with your camera.
Sure. Yeah, the more simple that you can keep your images, the longer that they're going to last. Anybody that's looked more than 2 years back on their Instagram feed kind of recoils back.
And I'm just looking at a photo right here on my camera, and I'm saying, I think if everyone could just simply learn to use crop and move it around, and maybe use the exposure setting just a little bit. This is on an iPhone, but this is going to be the same on multiple phones. I'm thinking if people could just learn to do a couple of those things before posting, what would it do to make things better?
Absolutely.
Okay, next tip, keep light for the eyes, light for the eyes. What are you thinking there?
So one of the things is if you are photographing a subject, if they can see where the biggest source of light is coming from, sometimes that's the sky, sometimes it's the sun, you're gonna put lots of light in their eyes, and it's gonna be very expressive, and it's going to be a lot better image than if they have mostly shadows coming across their face.
So a simple thing would be, if there's a big light behind them, move around, turn
absolutely.
around,
have
rotate
them face
180.
The light source.
Now we get into things like perspective, because things like framing are very, very important.
Sure. Yeah, it's amazing what moving the camera 6 inches lower or higher can actually do for your perspective. A lower perspective is going to give your subject a sense of power. It's going to make it seem bigger than it actually is. Most camera lenses are wide-angle lenses. And then if you go up high, you're also going to be able to shoot sort of a top-down view. Most of us have seen other people's breakfasts or lunch or whatever it may be. But you're going to offer the viewer a sense of power in that.
This might be a good time to talk about composition because I have got on my smartphone, sometimes I have this on, sometimes I have it off, but I've got the grid up. What do people need to know about rule of thirds? Because that's what this tic-tac-toe board is showing us.
So the rule of thirds is essentially derived from the Greek golden rule, and if you put your subject on one of those lines, it's going to draw a lot more attention to the eye and to your viewer than just maybe putting it in the center or a little off center.
I've been doing this enough that I don't even ever like to center anyone.
Sure.
I don't, Is that what you kind of teach? I know there's always exceptions to it.
If you're trying to bring balance or serenity to an image, centering them helps quite a bit. But if you're trying to make something stand out against a background or draw attention to it, putting it in that rule of thirds is going to naturally draw the eye there and keep it there longer.
And that other 2/3 that you're using, when that other 2/3 is informational space. You can do something with that. So if you've got a tree or some family or something in there, that's all part of that picture. It's not wasted space.
It's your environment. It's your context for that subject.
If I was doing you here, I would kind of use that as background and say, look this way.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I shooting video enough. I'm aware of it, but I think a lot of us forget that grid. If you turn it on in your camera settings, will make that a little bit easier to remember, and to think in thirds, both horizontally and vertically.
And it's right under settings. If you're on an iPhone, right under the camera, you can just click grid and it's right there for you.
What about distance? I notice that a lot of people don't want to get close to their subject.
Sure. Well, the iPhone and most smartphones have a really nice wide-angle lens. It's perfect for those landscapes, cityscapes. But if you bring a wide-angle lens really close to somebody, it's going to actually distort their face quite a bit. So a nice distance from them, or even sometimes pushing in just a little bit, and just a little bit of pinch and zoom.
Okay,
moderation.
Everybody needs to know pinch and zoom does blow up pixels,
It
so
does.
you're losing resolution.
It
But
does.
you're saying a little bit is okay.
Just a little bit, and you won't compromise that much resolution. And that's going to make people look a lot more natural.
I
And
switched mine to video here. That was almost a habit.
again, with the composition and things like that, avoiding the far corners too. With people, the farther you get to a corner with composition with somebody's face, you're going to stretch that out because it's a wide-angle lens as well. So sometimes, you'll see people take a selfie and the top of their head will look like an egghead sort of thing. And so you want to avoid that if at all possible.
Headroom.
Yeah, a nice little bit of headroom
This
is
is
really
what I call my mom. My mom, who's 79, is a good photographer.
Yep.
But she actually doesn't do this anymore because she hears from me. But how many of us have pictures from mom that are like this?
Yeah, absolutely. That has tons and tons of headroom, and you want to allow a little bit, but you don't need so much that you have to crop out the subject's body in order to get
And that's
that.
once again, I'm going to show the crop tools once again. This is on iPhones, but if we take Jer here and we go to the edit tools, once you start cropping just a little bit, I find you're never going to stop because you'll look at every photo and you'll start saying, I can make that better.
Yeah.
And one more thing I wanted to show people before we move on, as far as a basic thing. I think most people know how to do the tap and focus. Most people do not know that with these cameras you can tap and lock. So once you get it, then if anyone moves, it's not going to change. It's not going to shift. Is that right?
Yeah, and once you lock that in too, you'll notice there's a little sunshine icon on the side. If you drag that up and down, you can actually manually override your exposure. So if you're not happy with the exposure, a lot of times, if it's too dark or too light, you can override that and really get the exposure that makes your image look really wonderful.
And I guess the last thing to say to people going on vacation, don't be afraid because it's digital to take a lot of photos.
Absolutely.
But we might give a tip. That doesn't mean they all have to go on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pick the best ones.
Yeah, make sure there's enough room on your phone before you go out, and then don't forget to pick the best ones. It's a really fun activity with your family to go through and actually choose the images that you like and print them out. It used to be that we would take our film to the lab and they would automatically give us singles or doubles
you get
or
what you get.
4x6. And now with online sites, with a lot of places, you can get very cheap prints. And it's really important that you do that in case a hard drive goes out or the technology changes faster than we can keep up.
I was just talking with my wife the other day. There's nothing quite like a photo album.
Yeah,
Holding them in your hand. Well, have fun on vacation. Take these tips. It's amazing what I've discovered through the years. Just a few little things can make everybody's photos better. And if you're enjoying them better, we'll all enjoy them better too, sharing them with you. Thanks a lot, Jer Nelson from the Division of Art and Design.